Hi everyone. Okay, so today I'm just going to focus on the last section of the elemental estimate that you have to look at. So I'm just going to discuss a couple of concepts to you, and we're specifically going to focus on the electrical installation as well as the plumbing installation. And then we'll have a look at a the external works, etc., etc., on your buildings that might be included in your estimate. So thank you for those that have sent through their estimates for me to have a look at. So far, what I could see was that it's a bit of a challenge still for all of you just to allocate where everything goes, because the informal assignment was mostly up to, well, it was up to your ground floor construction. So there might be some items that you may have measured there that should not be there, but rather in measured later on, which isn't a big problem. Luckily, with working on Excel and then working in the olden days, it's easy just to move it from the one section to the other section. So it's not wasteful time for you to actually remeasure everything. So and also remember, I'm not going to judge you as I would judge the QSs. Obviously, we're just spending a little bit of time on this under normal circumstances. The QSs would have the elemental estimate as a year subject, and not only a short section or the amount of time that we're spending on it. The main objective of this exercise is for you to actually familiarize yourself with BOQs, do a bit of background of networking and trying to get some information, because this is what you're going to be confronted with in the industry. I had one attended that had to go in now recently, where the architect actually got involved, and he had to do quite a bit of the estimation before I actually got involved. So as an architect, you would have to have a bit of a feel of how things works, the overall estimation process. So before I get in too much into that, let me just look at what we're going to do today. So as you progress through your estimate, you will see that you might want to highlight some of the items that you need to include. Everything up to ceilings, I think, is fairly standard. And then you would get your fittings, which is just special items, like for instance your cupboards, cupboards fixed to walls. The main objective of the guideline is to make sure that you do not miss anything. That's the whole idea. So I'm currently on our ASAQ QS elemental guideline. So as I mentioned at the beginning, you go through it, you tick off systematically everything that you measure, you put it in your elemental estimate, and you populate your Excel spreadsheet like that. Okay, so fittings like your cupboards, the main thing is that you need to remember here is if you should compare apples with apples. So wherever that's measured, it should not be included in any other rates that you used earlier on. Okay, so your cupboards usually is an easy item to measure. You just take a previous bill or cost of a building. You might even get the cost of cupboards from Lotus Pine, or even from Builders Market, or any place like that. You might get an idea or feel of cupboards, and you try and take that rate, add the installation cost, the labor cost, the margin of profit, or so. You just make an allowance there. You can use your discretion on that. I'm not going to be too strict on that, or too mark too strictly those items. The main thing is that it should be in the ballpark, more or less. and so I'll use my discretion as well whenever I do mark those items. So this is more like a training exercise. So there isn't really a wrong and a right or wrong answer. The main thing is, as long as you included it and thought about how things actually work on your project. Okay, so getting to our electrical installation. The electrical installation has two components. You've got your internal installation, so that's usually your light fittings, your like stove connection, any your DB boards and all of that may be included in that. So usually in this case, if you do struggle with this, the default would be to actually use a square meter rate. So you would take your BOQ. I'm just going to open that here. So the BOQs for the electrical work is usually a bit of a cryptic, or is measured differently than the normal BOQ that you might have seen already. The electrical engineers measure the electrical work on in their own way. So what I'm just going to highlight here is the easiest way to start is to try and see what is included and what not. So the one that I included here is a civil workshop that we did a while ago. So you would see air conditioning is included here. Let me just quickly go to the summary. Okay, so the summary is where you get a lot of your information. So you would have your main low voltage installation, small power installations, lighting installations, low earthing and lightning protection. Although most of you with residential buildings won't necessarily have lightning protection, only earthing. That's all that's required for any COCs. And then you would see here's the air conditioning, and there's some provisional sums that's included here. And then there's some auxiliaries, and this is actually a final account that I have here on the screen. So you would have variation orders in here as well. So the variation orders isn't really applicable necessarily on your project. Okay, so variation orders is just where it tallies up to your original. So this is your original BOQ that was in here in this specific case. The contract amount was 981,000, and then the final account was actually a little bit more, I think about 30,000 more than that, which under normal circumstances is not too much on this size of project. Okay, so you would see in this section what you want to do is you can measure it in two ways. You can either measure your electrical installation per fitting or per square meter. Now the easiest way that I'll suggest you use is actually to use the method used in the example. So going to our example, you would see that the electrical installation is not actually drawn here, but you would have a light fitting here, a light fitting, let me just do this, a light fitting in this room and a light fitting in this room with a switch on this side, a switch on this side, and then maybe a plug in each room. Okay, so in the example, it just highlights. Let me just scroll down. You would see the electrical installation. You've got your installation and your builder's work, and that's basically what was measured here. So what they've done in this exercise is they measured the total square meter, and then they have the installation cost for the electrical work, and going to the cost or the rate build-up, cornices. Okay, so here's the installation for the electrical work. So basically they used a electrical installation of a previous project and they divided it with the cost basically. So what they had here is a previous project. They had 4 light fittings that with a rate of 640. You don't necessarily have to use this. You can use your installation cost, total installation cost. Obviously you would take out the items that I showed earlier on, like for instance your air conditioning, and also if it's specified your main connection, you would take that out to get to a total rate that you actually divide with the square meterage of that building. Okay, so what they did here is they actually measured out all of the items and the fittings. They added telephone points here, although you can actually do telephone points differently. You can measure it separately and get to a cost like that. Okay, so here they got electrical cost of so they used old rates and then they just escalated that to a new rate. So that is applicable if, for instance, if you've got a bill of quantities that was done in 2016 and you want to escalate it to 2020 to get to a rate. Okay, so you would see what they've done here is they've taken this rate that they have here, they actually multiplied it with the square meterage to get to a rate of 65 Rand per square meter. Okay, and then you would see here it was included in the rate that they actually built up here. So in our instance, just to go back to sorry, let me just navigate to that one. Closed it. Okay, so let me just quickly open that again. Final count. Okay, wrong one. Here we go. Electrical final account. So let me just put it here again. Let's just scroll down to the bottom. So for instance, let's take out which is applicable. So we've got P's and G's, which is applicable. Just to take out the percentage air conditioning. So we're going to take out air conditioning. Let me just see what percentage this is of the total. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out the P's and G's, because the P's and G's is worked out as a percentage. Okay, so it's 15% of the total estimate that the air conditioning actually contributed to. So we know that we can take out 15% of this times 85 divided by 100. Okay, so let's conclude that the low voltage, all of it was included in this installation. Small power installation, we conclude that as well. And then we've got lighting installation, which was also applicable. Low voltage cable installation. Okay, so the cable installation, as soon as you've seen the cable installation, you usually think, or this might be for the connection from the main connection to the building. So this will be included in your external works. So I'm just going to highlight that one. I'm not going to include it here. Okay, and let's quickly work out what this percentage was. So that's this one divided by 0.5. this one. Okay, so it's approximately 12% of this value. And let's just highlight this. Okay, so we can take another 15%. So let's just do this calculation. So it's 100 minus 15 minus 12. Take that out. Sorry guys, I'm going through it quite quickly, but I think you can rewatch this again. Okay, so then we've got our P's and G's included there. Earthing and lighting protection. Okay, so if here you can just have to go through the BOQ to make sure what is actually applicable of your historical building on your new building. So what you would do is just subtract the items that's not applicable. In our case, let's say in our new building we do have lighting protection, so we've included that. The provisional sums, you have to go through the provisional sums to see what's included there. So let's just see what is the stated provisionally. Okay, so it's contingencies and PC amount. Okay, so these items are not really applicable, so that was a place where the electrical engineer actually hit some of his costs for later use. Okay, so I'm going to exclude that, so that's excluded. And then your auxiliaries, let's see what's included there. Electrical hydro boils, yes, that should be included. Oh, this is the variation orders. This is just the auxiliaries. These were for rates for labor only, so I'm going to exclude them as well. They won't be applicable to my new building. Okay, and then what I will do is the variation orders I will include here as well, just here next to variation orders. Okay, in your case variation orders probably won't be included. So then we do our sum. Okay, so we get to our new rate, and for this building it was more or less 100 and it's two buildings of 117, so, or 70 times 2, so we had a construction rate of 2,000 Rand per square meter. So if you have your elemental estimate, what would happen is you would take this rate to use in your elemental estimate. Okay, complete installation with fittings, etc. And then you will probably have your builder's work included in that, except if you have a very specific BOQ where that is separate, then you can actually include that separately. Okay, so that's more or less how your electrical work installation works. I just want to go to the items that is highlighted in the guide. So you would see, please refer to 206 and 207 and 608. So let's just go to 206. So 206 is your special installations. So for instance, your air conditioning will be here. Power factor corrections, lighting and grounding protection you might add here. So some bonus points if you do add it there and not included at the top. Power generation, if you've got a power generator, you would include it there. Any other builders work. Air conditioning, air conditioning actually won't be here. You would see there is air conditioning somewhere else. Air conditioning, okay, it's 203, so let me do 203. Okay, so you would see here's your air conditioning. So it depends on how much detail you actually have. So if you've got your energy supply or heat generation, for your purposes, if you have it as a as units installed separately, you can actually calculate it per square meter. Just make sure that you compare apples with apples and whether it actually makes sense, the rate that you do get to. Okay, so let's just go back to our electrical installation. Okay, so the other items is 207. So 207 is our electrical system, electronic systems like access control, any nice iPad connections or access control or anything like that. And then the other one that that we need to look at is 608. Is 608. And then you go to 608. Your electrical installation. So this is your external works. It falls underneath. There we go. Underneath 6, so it's in your external works. Okay, so it's up to you how in detail you want to measure the electrical installation. Obviously, the more detail you include, it will give you some bonus marks if you do include it like that. But you can also play it safe and use a safe way of measuring it. Okay, so that's the electrical work, usually per square meter, or if I've seen people actually doing it per number, although the per square meter estimations is usually the easiest to take the historical data to get the new rates. Okay, so that's more or less how the electrical installation works. So the next video we're going to look at the installation of plumbing. Thanks everyone.